Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome back to the Create Your Happy podcast. I'm super thrilled today to have the beautiful Deb King on my show, and she is the co-founder of the Wisdom Playground and a happiness ambassador. So obviously we needed to connect and have a conversation about bringing more happiness to more people. So welcome to the show, Deb. I'm really excited to delve into today's conversation. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you became a happiness ambassador.
Oh, thank you, Christy. It's so fun to be here with you as fellow happiness, all the words, all the things related to happiness.
Yeah, bring it on.
Well, I always wanted life to be a bit of fun, and I became a party animal when I was young. Majorly, like basically from the age of 17 to 30, I really gave it a good crack at trying to find my happiness through that.
Yeah.
But what happened in 2003, I returned to Sydney to become a life coach. So I'd been in London for 6 years, working on the bar, became a bouncer, became a nightclub manager.
Wow.
My boyfriend was a DJ, party. Like when I say I gave it a crack, I really gave it a go. But actually, thanks. Happiness is actually not found externally. I really tried.
Yeah, that is the truth right there.
And so, what was beautiful when I started my very first life coaching course, and ever since then done many different personal development, spiritual development, entrepreneurial development programs, but the journey to look within and discover myself and how to actually love myself, actually be in my heart, not just my head, to actually genuinely feel feelings and not be afraid of feeling the negative feelings and avoid all those things and distract myself from all those things. So yeah, I gave it a really good crack of trying to not do it that way. But the beautiful thing is, I've been on a journey to truly be more present in my body, more in my heart, genuinely be happy, and actually be able to help others that want that too. And it is such a joy. And I really feel that that's why we're here as humans, to have all the experience, all the senses, and actually go on an adventure to enjoy and feel bliss and happiness. And there's been such a journey with that, because, and I know that you've been through it a bit before, where people judge you if you're happy, or they think you're Pollyanna and they think it's not possible. And
yeah,
there's just such a journey of actually giving ourselves permission to be fully expressed as a happy person. Like it's like
that permission slip is huge, giving ourselves permission to have fun, to play, to create, to have those experiences that feel really fucking good. And we are not necessarily told in society that that's okay. In fact, a lot of the things that we learn actually tend to result in us tamping down those fun, happy, joyful experiences, or even so far as to say, like, we might even feel badly about having a really good, positive experience. What can you share with our audience on that? Because I know you've probably gone through something like that. I think we all have.
Well, I think for me, like, I'm even more committed to actually being focused on what makes me feel good, being very disciplined on what I'm focused on, and choosing to feel good and be happy, because the world right now has so much stuff to look at that does not feel good, and I can go down a really like negative rabbit hole and then get sick and not feel good like at all. So for me, I've just gotten extra recommitted to that because of my awareness of how powerful our focus is. And particularly me, I just think I'm sensitive. I can't, like, I watch the news and I feel depressed. Like,
Yeah, just
You know?
really feeling that empath life, right? Where
Yeah.
you feel so deeply. And we are told our whole lives that we're just maybe too sensitive, or we're too dramatic, or, our emotions are too big, and other people can't handle them. And so we try and squelch them. We try to make them smaller. We avoid them. We think, oh my gosh, I'm too much to handle. And so we
Yeah,
hide those parts away instead of really allowing them to be part of us. We're whole. And so
that's
whenever
right.
we try to hide away those bits and pieces of ourselves, and generally this is done because of survival, right? We don't go about, we're like, oh, I'm just going to hide away this piece. No, it comes from some sort of, I'll say trauma, small t, big T, doesn't matter. Some survival response that we had at some point in the past that is likely replaying out ongoing in our life, right? And if we're not aware of it, it's really hard to change it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how can we
where
start to be a little bit more aware so that we can start to transform and shift more towards, the happiness and love and success and peace and joy and abundance and all these things that ultimately we want?
yeah, well, I think you're right in saying awareness and permission, like giving ourselves permission that actually we're the ones in control of what we choose to focus on and how we want to feel and what we do, our actions. And so we have the power to create our life. And so firstly is getting present, giving ourselves actually the gift of tuning into ourself and not
Yeah.
keep seeking externally, which is, I know, a very similar um a message to you. We're
Yeah.
singing the same tune in so many
Yeah.
ways, and what I love is that you've actually created a podcast called Create Your Happy, and that the world is now talking about happiness, and it is a normal thing that we go, actually, this is worth exploring. Everyone has their own definition. You get to make your own definition of
Yeah.
what success is to you, what happiness is to you, and all that. And it's going to be different for different people. So it has to be something we tune into ourselves for. What actually does light me up, bring me joy, make me feel good. But what's exciting is, I said that I started my coaching career 2003. I had an assignment I had to do in that course, and I wanted to use the word and focus on happiness. I was not allowed to use the word happiness. I had to use the word fulfillment because it
Hmm.
was way before happiness was even talked about. So it's exciting to see in the last 20 years that we are shifting and changing. Our consciousness is becoming more aware that our emotions, our heart, our feelings
Yeah.
matter. It's not just about being in our head, thinking and doing, that actually how we feel is so important to connect with
Yeah.
and to get to know and to actually see it as a guidance system that can lead us to know, are we actually in alignment with what's right for us, or are we resisting and kind of creating uh, more of what we don't want. So it's a very cool thing to start to look within and get to know ourselves on all those levels of mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. And there's things that we can do that can help us shift. And every moment we have the opportunity to refresh and do that. So
Isn't that the most beautiful thing? Is that every
mm,
moment is a fresh opportunity. So no matter what happened, even 30 seconds ago, you can still choose right now to move forward, with a different story or with a different perspective, or choosing a different experience for yourself, because you are in fact the one in charge.
that's
And I
right.
know that not everyone believes that they're the one in charge. So what would you say to those people who maybe aren't there? I mean, these are the people that I, wrote my book for, to help them to finally see how much power they truly have within, because that's the illusion that we don't have it, right? We're distracted by shiny objects in the world, and we get distracted from the fact that we have everything we need within us. And so we're on this goose chase, these rabbit holes, we're exploring and trying to find the answers, but we're looking in all the wrong places.
Mm.
So, what would
That's
you
it.
suggest?
It's a really great question, because for me, it's such an embodied knowing now that we are absolutely infinite. In every moment, there are infinite possibilities. And because our human self can only take in a tiny fraction of what's happening in any moment,
Yeah.
Of course, we're only seeing what we see, but knowing each moment we're seeing what we see, but there is so much happening in this moment that we're not actually kind of focusing on or present to because we can't take it all in at one moment.
Yes.
So
Overwhelming.
yeah, so it's a really cool thing, and so maybe the best thing to do is to play with it and experiment. So we're on the topic of play anyway,
Yeah.
right? So to play with starting to think about something that you would love to see and just see, like, put it out there and start to notice and start to then change, play with it and choose something else to focus on and see what you notice, and kind of actually realize what you choose to focus on, that's what you're going to see more of. So it's
Yeah.
even seen, the old story of, you want a certain type of color car or a
Yep.
type of brand of car that you haven't really seen, and then you start seeing them everywhere. That happens because we're going to keep getting what we want to focus on. So that's a really probably a starting point to prove the evidence that we've got infinite possibilities, because you can hear all the words. There's many teachers, many great inspiring wisdom teachers sharing now more and more science about this, right? So
Absolutely.
there's tons of resources if you want to dive into and research it, but words don't teach. So sometimes we just need to have the evidence ourselves, and so I'd say play with it to get that evidence.
We need to have more experiential
Mm.
knowledge, which is different from just knowing, right? A lot of people really know what they ought to do, or know they have an inner knowing of what is aligned, what feels good, but yet then we don't do it. Right. And so there's this out of alignment sort of situation. And knowing what we should do and ought to do is very different from doing the things that we know that feel really good to us. Right. So knowing that we should do that, but not doing it actually creates suffering for us. Right. Because we're not in alignment. But if we know and then we do, we take that aligned action that feels really good, then we become aligned. Right.
Mm.
And ultimately what you're talking to about this filter is this reticular activating system. This is part of your brain filter that says, like, oh, this is too much information. Let's just filter out what we don't need. And unfortunately, what it does is filters in what it thinks that we want based on our past, right? Based on what we are looking for, and based on those past memories, those feelings, those beliefs that we have. Those help our reticular activating system to narrow down its filter and bring in more of what it thinks we're looking for. And that is, not without this confirmation bias that we have, some of it really, subconscious, to give us more of what we're comfortable, what we're familiar with, instead of expanding out into the limitless possibilities that exist. And so if we want to get
Absolutely.
unstuck, we got to start shifting out of autopilot response, where the reticular activating system is going on its own, doing its thing without your involvement, and to, biohack our physiology and reframe those filters so that it can start bringing more of those good, fun, aligned experiences full of fun and play and adventure into our
Mm.
experience. Right. And we're the one that gets to decide.
Absolutely, and that's where I say play with it, because you can start to ask the great questions from the universe, or you could actually just start affirming great things, and you will see different things. So you can just keep saying, "My life is fun. My life is fun. My life is fun," and your life will become fun. Or you can say, "How can it get even better than this?" and allow more
Yeah.
magic than you even imagine. So there's some really cool ways to play with it to actually have that evidence of seeing a different filter working, rather than whatever the old patterns that you were repeating to yourself that wasn't creating what you wanted.
And I think, like, too, when talking about fun and play, I feel like there's this idea that this is for children, which, no, I don't agree with that at all. I think that fun and play are for humans, not just children. So time to bring some of that back if that's long been lost for you. But also, like, this childlike essence of it really is a curiosity, right? It's like an exploration. And this curiosity will lead you to find those answers. And if you can come into yourself and find that space within to ask yourself the questions and unearth your inner knowing, then you will find the answers that you've been seeking. So really harnessing this childlike curiosity, I love to suggest people try on a different perspective. It can be a little bit much to be like, well, this belief isn't working, let's switch it for this one. There can be a nervous system response. It's like, oh, hell no, that's too far. And I don't even believe that. We ultimately do need to have, our energetic being on board with these beliefs if we're going to actually call in and have those experiences and actually buy into it, right? Because if we don't physically, physiologically, emotionally connect with that, we're like, that's just bullshit, right? I don't really believe that. It's not really happening. But in order for it to happen, we really need to get our belief on board. So, trying things on, just experimenting, right? Exploring, getting curious, asking yourself, what would it look like if, right? And try that on. And maybe it's going to open up some new doors for you, some new possibilities, and shed some light to some things you hadn't considered looking at that way before.
I mean, that is absolutely spot on. The curiosity, even the fact you start your podcast about let's get curious. So well done. Congratulating you, everyone, for listening to this right now, because clearly you have some curiosity in you, and that's a thing to nurture. Whether the childlike thing, like for me, it's like, I would love to be more like a child. I think, as humans, we are all children in a way, if you want to be. So it depends. It's like, part of it for me is just let's transcend judgment of labels of what we think of. But the truth of children is typically they are more playful, more open, more creative, more imaginative, more, ability to learn more and all that, because they're in more play and curiosity, and we can as adults choose to bring more of that in, and if we do, we will have a more juicy experience of life for sure. Because as adults, if we get too serious and start to just be very making decisions that are narrow and not staying open to possibilities, and of course we're not going to have as a glorious fun time, right?
It just really expands our opportunities for life and creates this breadth and depth that we would not have if we were just functioning, on this autopilot sort of wake up, drink your coffee, go to work, watch some TV, go to bed, do it again. Like, it's very monotonous, and it's very easy to slip into sort of this autopilot living, but we're not meant to live that way. And that's sort of a misconception, I think, of society, of the world, to say that it is hard, it's tough, it's a struggle. It doesn't need to be. So
that's right. That's a choice of how we choose to view it. Yeah. And so choice and curiosity, really important to realize we have the choice. Choosing curiosity will lead to more magic for sure.
Yeah. And, we need to approach with a willingness, right? Because I think that if we're holding back and we are really not willing to explore, then we will kind of stay stuck, right? We will stay trapped in those loops or those patterns that we keep talking about wanting to get out of, but can't seem to find our way out of. And getting curious, opening up, expanding our awareness, and then being willing to do the things and fail at them because nothing is easy. We don't become experts at something overnight or by trying it one time, right? As children know, you try again. And until the world kept telling us that it was bad and wrong to fail, we would just do that. We would paint the cow blue, and we would, create unicorns and other mystical creatures until the world said, oh, you can't do that here. Now you're just you're deluded. You're making things up. And then we squelch that creativity and we limit our own possibilities.
Yes, but all the limits we've created ourselves. So the cool thing is we can choose to open those up through the curiosity, and also remember, like you said, to be okay with failing. It's that great example of when a baby is learning to walk. It tries to stand up and falls over many, many times, and we are celebrating every time it gets up. So that's how we need to approach everything we do, with keep celebrating what we do and not worry about the fact we're falling over all the time as well. Like, that's okay. It's part of it.
not take it so damn personally when we make a mistake. And remember that we're all human, right? We're all doing what we can, and we're gonna make mistakes. It's like, it's impossible to avoid. And so actually owning our mistakes, taking radical responsibility, is how we shift into conscious creation and intentionally building the life that we truly want. That life that is built on healthy, happy relationships, the one that where you feel and really feel good and confident in your body, and the one where you find your voice and share it unapologetically with the world around you, because someone out there needs to hear your story. And ultimately that's what this podcast is about, is providing a platform for some of those stories so that they can be heard around the world by people who are struggling with maybe those same exact challenges, so that they might see new awareness, right? And maybe evoke a curiosity in them to go out and change it.
Yeah. It's what one of the things I'm curious about is unconditional love and unconditional happiness. And because it doesn't actually matter about our circumstances, there's going to be, no matter who we are, we're going to have challenges, we're going to have problems, we're going to have stuff happen. And it's how we actually choose to be with it all.
Yeah.
Because there's people that perhaps think if they had more money, if they had this or that, but there's people who are super happy that don't have anything, and then there's people that have everything, appear to have all the material things that supposedly the society says that might make them happy, and they're miserable. So it's irrelevant about the circumstances, and it is back to that choice and curiosity of how might I allow myself to feel better right now? How might I just really bring in more fun and play to what I'm doing right now, even though it's something I don't really want to do, but it really needs to be done, or maybe I let it go and I don't do it. What if I realize in every moment I have freedom? I can choose. I am free to decide if I'm going to get up and go for a walk, if I'm going to go and have a glass of water, if I'm going to not do this thing, if I am going to do this thing. Every moment we have so much freedom. And that in itself is kind of a fun thing to play with, because
yeah, you can really play with that and ask, what do I need right now? And in the interest of, February being sort of like typically a month of love, I am talking a lot this month about self-love, and just how we can really lean into loving ourselves and nurturing ourselves. And I know people talk about self-care, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not talking so much about self-care. I mean, that is important. You should definitely, shower and have pedicures if that feels good to you. But I'm talking about like that deep soul nurturing kind of activity. What do you really need? Not just surface, right? Not something that's just going to help you feel happy in a moment, but something that's going to build a foundation of happiness, because we are not going to ever at any point sail through life without a single challenge. That's just not reasonable. That's not how this world operates. And so it's not about creating a perfect life. It's about learning how to ride the storms with ease and grace, and still showing up and creating and choosing our own experience within that, so that you can face something difficult and still show up from a space of love, right?
Yeah. And a great way to do that is play the song Love is in the Air and have a good dance.
Yeah, dancing is a great way to move some energy, and just feel really good. And if you are not someone who feels comfortable dancing in front of, oh my gosh, just go in a quiet place, crank the tunes and have a little dance party for one, and let yourself just be in the moment, right? That's one really easy way, first of all, good little biohack, because you're actually able to move the energy in your body, which is super helpful for bringing your nervous system into regulation, to have that energy moving and flowing. And ultimately, because we don't want to bypass or skip over anything, we actually are here to experience all of it. The problem that I see in this is that we go way beyond that, and then we get scared, and then we rein all the way back in. So we skip the feeling part, which is actually crucial. So we want to avoid kind of getting sucked into, this negative spiral of overthinking, overwhelm, these stories. I posted the day of recording, I had posted about our favorite stories being the ones we tell most often, and how if your favorite story does not make you feel good, maybe it's time to look for a new story in essence, because those ones that we're repeating, call in that reticular activating filter and be like, okay, more, please, more of this. This is the story I'm telling. This is where I'm at. And so this is what I'm seeking out in my experience. So if we want to shift that, we want to have a different experience, we've got to, start looking at the stories, start looking at the judgments, start looking at the assumptions and the beliefs. Get really curious about why something is creating a response in you. It's coming up for you to look at. If it wasn't, coming up, then it's not ready for you to be looking at. But if it's coming up, it's because it's time. It's time for you to take a close examination of where that's coming from, whether it's working for you or not. That way you can shift out of those stories and those beliefs and those mindsets and all of that that's keeping you really stuck in your very, very familiar comfort zone, instead of moving into this deeper breadth and depth of experience that is available to you.
Yeah, it is. I really, why I became a life coach is because I was very mean to myself. I used to be so hard on myself and beat myself up and really a bitch to myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that have that experience.
And that's one of the things that I think really helped shift for me when I stopped being like that. Like being much more kind and loving to myself was a really big step to starting to shift out. And you mentioned overthinking and all that, because we are actually conditioned to be in our head. So it is something to consciously choose to stop doing that, get out of our head and really drop into our heart and actually live from our heart. It is just such a more juicy, magical experience. And I love the movie Soul on Disney. Have you seen that?
I'm not sure if I have.
You would remember because it's right up our alley. But basically, it's a great demonstration how we come in as souls into this human experience to really have the experience of the senses. So to smell the roses, to taste the pizza, to actually, that when we're a soul and not in the human experience, that's what we can't do. So we're here.
That's bringing that knowledge into experiential knowledge.
Yeah, and to actually appreciate it and enjoy it all. And if you fall over, you just get up and it's just no big deal. Like it's really transcending all judgment. Nothing's right or wrong. It just is. We're labeling it right or wrong. Yeah. So I think that beautiful way of living of without judgment, just really being in the moment, in the present, experiencing, appreciating all of that. It's a very beautiful quality of life versus what I had where I would be in my head beating myself up. Like I can recommend it.
Yeah. And I come from, a very analytical background as well. I have a training as a professional accountant, which I am no longer practicing in that. But growing up, when our emotions aren't able to be received by the people in our life, when we are told that we are too much, too loud, too emotional, go calm down, it just really conveys this message to us that we are too much and that our emotions are too much. So very often, I think this leads to a disconnection from our body. And we unfortunately then are disconnecting from that inner barometer that is actually, able to direct us to the stuff that is for us, that shit that lights our soul on fire. Like that, we feel that coming from within. But if we're disconnected, we might not know what that is. We might not know how to interpret it. We might not even hear it at all. And so there's this sort of reconnection required within, mind, body, heart, soul, coming into unity so that we can operate as a whole human. We are already whole. So really being able to operate from that space of wholeness. And, that involves some curiosity to unpack where we may have disconnected. It involves some vulnerability, some willingness to, be really courageous, face those scary, uncomfortable things. And I'll tell you what, our asshole mind, that part of our mind that wants to keep us safe, will blow those those feelings out of proportion and make you afraid of facing that discomfort, but you've survived it before and you'll survive it again, right? This idea is just making it like a big catastrophe inside of our mind. But when we do start to explore, we often discover that it's not really as terrible as we were making it out to be inside of our minds, and that we can withstand a little bit of discomfort and it'll be okay.
That's a really key thing, that actually it's okay. Discomfort is okay. That was one I was really I avoided discomfort massively, and I was petrified to feel any negative emotions. So I would avoid distract. I absolutely wouldn't be present to them. I would reframe. I was a queen of reframing and very much in positive in my head, but really the emotions, energy doesn't lie. So the emotions still were like there, right?
Yeah. You
and
like
so sometimes,
it,
so sometimes we just actually have to sit in it and feel it. And if we can feel it with a bit more observation rather than bathing and suffering it, it actually will pass through, and then we will feel peace. We will get through it. It will never stay permanently in that. It's emotion is energy in motion. It's never going to, you're not going to be stuck in that horrible feeling that we're kind of petrified of feeling.
You know how you get stuck there is avoiding going there in the first
That's place, right. That's right.
Or getting looped into the stories.
Looped into bathing and suffering it and continuing to like just really staying in it and
stewing in it, really.
Yeah, stewing, bathing, whatever, really just not actually genuinely witnessing it and actually allowing yourself for it to pass, to move through, because that's what emotions want to do. So it's a really beautiful gift when I learned that. I think it took me years to learn it. I don't think it has to take that long for people now. I think it's I think you can do it a lot quicker than what I did.
Phew, right? Like, good thing, because it took me way too long to figure that out as well. And so I think like this is a multi-layered sort of thing, right? If you're really functioning in survival mode, first step is to sort of like dislodge yourself from that autopilot loop, right? So that you can more intentionally, with awareness, decide where you're going to go next. And then when you can do that and you can stay in the present moment, because, when we're fighting with the past or rehashing the past, we continue dragging our suffering into the present moment. If we're dealing with uncertainties and anxiety and stress and worrying about what might happen, well, we're worrying about something that hasn't happened. So that is a futile effort. I personally have never improved my situation, not one time, by worrying about it. A lot of wasted energy. And even in the current moment, we can really drain our energy arguing with reality and, oh, well, it shouldn't be this way. And I don't like how this panned out. This isn't what I had planned. Well, it is what it is. And, the sooner we can come to accept what is, the sooner we can allow, whatever we're feeling about that to move through. And like you said, it will become a smooth path through, right? The more you practice it, the easier it will flow. And it seems really overwhelming and really difficult. And those emotions maybe feel really terrifying. And sometimes it's more the thoughts and the stories that are actually blowing that up. And it's not actually like, how terrible is it to feel a little bit sad? I mean, it's not comfortable. We're not like, oh, please, I want to feel sad, but like, you're fine through that experience. When you allow it instead of resisting it, it doesn't hang on, and you don't need to do anything active to let it go per se. But if you allow it and accept it, it actually will let go of you, which accomplishes that end goal with a lot more ease.
100%. It's very easy, like very powerful when you accept whatever is. Get out of your head about the story. Just feel whatever you're feeling and allow it to be. That is so powerful. And also what you said about worry. Like, worry is a misuse of our imagination. We could choose to be focused on worrying about something and create something crappy, or we can actually imagine something far better. Like, that's how powerful we are. And one of the best gifts I learned from an ex, actually, before I even became a coach, was, because I used to worry a lot. Don't worry about what's not in your control. If it's in your control, do something about it. If it's not in your control, there is 0 point worrying about it.
Yeah.
Like 0. It does not help anyone. It certainly does not help you. And it's just ridiculous. So when we can laugh at ourselves and just kind of not take it all so seriously, everything is actually working out. Even when shitty stuff happens, it's actually got blessings always. Like,
There's
I have
always an
not
opportunity.
ever seen any time where there has not been blessings come out of the things that feel crappy. It is all happening actually perfectly and amazingly. And it's it brings me a lot of peace knowing that, because even when I'm not particularly liking what's going on, trusting it's actually happening for me and it's all working out, that is a great way to accept it and allow, like you said, just accept what is. And that's,
there's great
powerful
freedom. There's great freedom available when you stop arguing with reality, when you stop being outside of the current moment, right? And just being present and grounded. Unless you're actually being chased by a lion, which is probably not the case for most of us all the time, we are safe here in this moment. And if you really take a moment to think about, look around and just observe, you have what you need in this moment. And in the next moment, you'll have what you need in that moment too. But leaning into that trust is a little bit scary, right? Because it's leaning into that uncertain. It's also very exciting because you're also leaning into possibility and opportunity. And that's where the magic lies.
We are living in the most exciting time ever on the planet right now. There is so many ways to create infinite magic and possibility. And I really think it is amazing. So yes, there's some crazy going on, but it is like endless possibility for whatever you want to create. That is what's real.
So Deb, tell me, what is your most favorite way to play?
Well, I have many, but for me, I love nature and the ocean so much, and I love music and dancing so much. So those things are huge, huge for me.
Yeah,
love laughing and just anything. I do like memes and dad jokes and stuff like that.
Anything for a laugh, right?
So there's so many things. I think for me, what brings me joy is when I'm really in appreciation, really present to either celebrating or just being in gratitude of truly connecting with all the wonderful things that we have available to appreciate in every moment. So for me, that really lights me up. I think I just love brainstorming, being creative, and connecting heart to heart with people, uplifting people. I love coaching. I love traveling. Not that I've done a lot of travel in the last few years. So.
Yeah, it's been tricky.
But there's also different experiences to create locally that has happened. And so everything can be an adventure when we choose it to be that. And I think that whole key word that we've said today, curiosity, for me, when I can transcend judgment and be curious, man, that is,
it just
amazing.
Opens up. Like, when you let go of the judgment, you are much more free to really experience in a fun and playful way, if that's your intention. I personally get super horny for nature as well and love hiking and spending time with my amazing partner hiking up mountains and just taking in, like, I really feel like sometimes when I'm out in nature, that just like everything is as it should be. Like, it just feels so perfect and so safe and so comforting. And what I can do, which is the beautiful thing about it, is I don't have to live out there to have this experience with me all the time. But when I do, I go out there, I get connected, and I bring a little bit of that back home with me, right? So that I can bring that energy up whenever I need that kind of energy. And so I can experience that over and over and over. Like, instead of experiencing my stories from the past where they weren't very good and I didn't feel very good, I can replace them with this feeling of feeling fulfilled and having these, like, you know, eye orgasms with this beautiful nature before me. Like, it's such a strong emotional feeling that I have. And it's so beautiful because I can take that with me. Right.
So beautiful. I actually, at some point in life, will have more time in the mountains. I understand. I have been to Canada. I want to do more mountainy things there.
Yeah.
But I'm obsessed with the ocean, and I
me
just
too.
love the beach. And I'm obsessed with Hawaii as well. But even at sunrise, sunset, so magical. But even when we can't necessarily be there, like you say, we can have it with us. And I think a key thing to set up the day first thing in giving myself my own me time and my own little connection with me is super powerful for creating a playful, fun day versus the days where if I go straight to my phone to look at social media or email or not that I'm very good at anyway, any that stuff can actually be dangerously not a good way to start the day. Because if I see something that doesn't make me feel good, then straight away I'm like not looking, need
off your intention, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's really about setting that intention for the day and living in alignment with, setting an intention is really helpful for living in alignment, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we get off track so easily.
Exactly. And there's so many things going on, so much noise, that it actually does take a conscious choice to connect with ourselves as the first priority, to then be able to be our most playful, fun selves and have that great experience of each day. So that one for me is pretty important. And then everything can be play, right? Everything can be fun from there. So
hey, everything is, exactly as you decide it is. So if you want things to be fun and playful, there is a way. So tell us, Deb, a little bit about anything that you have going on, exciting offers, and where our listeners can get in touch with you to find out more. And I know you had a couple of freebies that you were going to share as well.
Oh, yes. Okay. So in the Wisdom Playground, we play with wisdom teachers, people who are coaches, healers, practitioners. They have fresh wisdom to uplift humanity, and we support them in their businesses in really cool ways. We have a free gift for those of you, a mini guide. It's really valuable to understand what the best coaches on the planet do differently to everyone else. That's come out of research my amazing business partner did. That is such a powerful guide to check out, and would love to have a conversation with you of how we can support you with next steps to actually creating the thriving business you deserve and desire with sharing your wisdom. As particularly around creating coaching and training products that are at a higher level of mastery than what's in general out there in the world. Gabby has incredible wisdom in learning and development and actually making sure we create transformational learning outcomes for our clients. So that is something that I'm super passionate about. Also, we have a free gift for everyone, which is 20 ways to play more. So that is just a bit of a fun document to give some ideas, some sparks, some creativity. And I would love to hear if you implement any of them, how they work for you, that kind of thing. That when you go to the page, that leads you into our Facebook group. So you can connect there. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, Insta, all those, Telegram. I'd love to connect with anyone who resonates with having a chat around play and fun and happiness or wisdom or anything to do with all of that. If you got good jokes.
It's always good to find someone who makes you laugh. And honestly, this was like a super important criteria when I was trying to figure out what my ideal relationship would look like. And finding someone I could laugh with was really right at the top, because I really, they say laughter is the best medicine. And it's true. It moves the energy. It sends those signals to our brain. It helps us to rewire. It helps us feel good. helps us to reconnect into
I love it.
ourselves. So
And funny enough, it's reminding me as we speak about this, is I don't even know that many jokes, but I do like to laugh at them. So
yeah,
it's like I don't play music, but I'm a music appreciator. So I'm a good receiver of all these things, and celebrator and cheer people on with it. But I think one of the things I've also been playing with is a joy rampage. So
yeah,
just, talking about all the things that bring us joy and uplift us, and just, to be in that energy for a few minutes even can be so uplifting. So there's lots of ways to play with me.
that is actually a great tip for, I was really just about to ask you for one last, practical tool that our listeners can implement to bring more play and fun and joy into their life. And that sounds like a great idea. A joy rampage or a gratitude rampage or an adventure play focused kind of rampage, any of those things, right? Tell me a little bit more about what you were kind of talking about, the joy rampage.
Well, I really feel that every moment we have a choice to reach towards like a thought that actually is in alignment to what we want, or actually it's going to be in resistance to what we want, sort of like what Abraham Hicks talk about, the stream. Everything we want is downstream. If we are actually trying to go upstream, we're going in resistance. If we're going downstream, we're in alignment, and everything flows that way. So the more we can actually focus on things that feel in alignment, that light us up, that bring joy, the more we're in that momentum of going downstream to experience all the magic that we've already created on some level, but get to experience in the physical reality. So it's just a little experiment to play with more and more stuff that actually is fun to focus on, that actually does feel good.
Yeah.
Because if we do that, then we're going to be in that vibration that allows more and more of that to happen, because we will get more momentum. The more we focus on something, we get more of it. The same as if we focus on stuff that feels crap, we're going to get more of that. But rather than do that, let's shift that.
Yeah. Let's move towards more of what we want, right?
That's right. And so one way is to just get connected with what brings us joy, what feels good, what we feel appreciative, what we want to celebrate, what we're grateful for, all the things, and just to play with it and experiment with that. That's one thing. I think one last tip that I don't think we've talked a lot about is just the power of the breath. In every moment, we have the opportunity to just connect in with take a deep breath, breathe in through our heart and out through our heart, and just really drop out of our head into our heart to breathe. Take a deep breath. You're accessing infinite possibilities just by taking a deep breath. So use the breath to also bring yourself into a better space. Then do the joy rampage to create more momentum with it, right?
Yeah. And the breath is such a useful tool. Anytime when we start to feel a bit disconnected, or we maybe feel some chaos or some discomfort or anything that we have a tendency to want to avoid, we can really soothe some of that discomfort by simply breathing through it. By focusing in on our breath, we allow ourselves to reconnect inward, right? So we're able to reconnect mind, body, soul, heart, all of these components back into unity, all using the breath. And it's so simple, but we often forget because we take it for granted, and we don't consciously have to think about breathing, which, first of all, let's pause right there, because isn't that a freaking gift that our lungs are breathing on their own without even us having to think about it? So, something to be super grateful for. But if we are consciously aware of our breath, we can use that as a tool to reconnect back into ourselves. And that is a great way to get unstuck, right? And to get into this space of being more intentional, more conscious with what we're creating for ourselves. And that's how we can get out there and create our happy.
100%. And actually, even that in itself circles back to one of the original questions of how do we have evidence that we have infinite potential? And it's like, look at all the things that happen without us even thinking about it, without us even doing it in our own body on the planet. We don't have to make the sun rise, or we're not paying anyone to to do the things that are happening for us. There's so much happening, and to breathe that in and enjoy it.
Yeah. What a beautiful gift. Well, thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me. And I hope that the listeners found it fun and playful and got inspired to go and do something that feels a little bit more playful today.
Yes.
Go love on yourself and nurture yourself and look within. Ask yourself, what feels really fun and playful for me today? And then go do that thing.
Yes, go do it.
Amazing. I love you guys. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Thank you.
If you're ready to go a little bit deeper and do the work for yourself, my book, Unstuck for Women, is going to help you to create your personalized spiral stopper using my spiral stopper method in order to shut down all that overthinking and overwhelm that have been keeping you stuck in your current patterns. I'm going to explain inside the book how your brain works and why it might not be currently helping you to accomplish your goals and how to change that. I'm also super excited to announce the upcoming launch of my brand new course, the Get the Fuck Unstuck Adventure. In this course, you are going to learn how to accept yourself as a whole-ass human, perfectly imperfect, just as you are. You'll discover how to free yourself from unnecessary pain and suffering. You'll learn how you can look and feel better in your body right now. You'll learn to understand yourself better in order to intentionally create the experiences you desire. And of course, you're going to learn how to stop merely surviving so you can finally start thriving. This adventure contains 21 perspective shifts that are going to take you from stuck in survival mode to consciously creating as your next level self. So join us, try on a few new perspectives, play with a few new possibilities, and become more intentional with your life. Registration is open, and the course kicks off on February 6th. If you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to head on over to my website at gtfu.ca for some sweet goodies and bonuses that are going to help you get the fuck unstuck, starting right now.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.